A story which has been dominating headlines across the country is the SNC-Lavalin affair. Will former Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould finally be allowed to speak? Will it bring down the Trudeau Liberals? Joining me now via Skype from Ottawa is our national parliamentary reporter, Ray Filion. Ray, what's the latest? Will we finally hear from Jody Wilson-Raybould? I know Canadians want to hear her side of the story.
And she wants to give what she called her truth. That's what she said in the House of Commons on Wednesday afternoon in a very much noticed statement that she made in the House. She wants to give her side of the story, but the problem is, as she mentioned during that same statement in the House of Commons, the principle, which is called the solicitor-client privilege, hasn't been waived, and that's not for her to waive. It's for the Prime Minister or someone in the government. As the former Attorney General for Canada, somebody must give her the green light to speak, otherwise she won't be able to say much. And the funny thing is, Justin Trudeau, who held a news conference on Thursday morning on the East Coast, he made it clear he's not in favor of waiving that solicitor-client privilege. He said that if he does, it could have a negative impact on some court cases involving SNC-Lavalin. So former Minister Wilson-Raybould is actually set to testify before the House of Commons Justice Committee as early as Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. That's when she might be able to give her side of the story. But the problem is, because of that solicitor-client privilege, we don't know if she's going to be able to say anything. She might be forced to answer every single question by saying, I'm sorry, because of solicitor-client privilege, because of the fact that it hasn't been waived by my former client, the government of Canada, I can't answer that question. So it might turn out to be a very dull exercise if that's the case. Now, on Thursday, you were asking about the latest, Hal. On Thursday afternoon, before that same Justice Committee of the House of Commons, the clerk of the Privy Council, who is the highest-ranking civil servant in the country, Michael Wernick, he gave a very interesting testimony. He basically backed Justin Trudeau's version of events, asserting categorically that there was no inappropriate pressure placed on the shoulders of the former Solicitor General, Jody Wilson-Raybould, with regards to the SNC-Lavalin. He says that there was some pressure on her to do the right thing, but that no one put undue pressure on her. Now, this is the first time that such a high-ranking official backs up Justin Trudeau's version of event, which, of course, is that no one in the PMO did anything wrong.
So, Ray, as we've discussed here on Bridge City News, Trudeau lost his most trusted advisor in Gerry Butts, a man he's known for over 20 years. Many believe it was Butts who was really helping Trudeau with policy decisions. How much will the Butts resignation really hurt Justin Trudeau?
It could have a very big impact because, as you mentioned, Hal, he wasn't just the Prime Minister's main most trusted advisor. He's also a great friend. The two have known each other since their days at McGill University in Montreal back in the early 1990s. For people who don't know Gerald Butts, he was really the mastermind behind Justin Trudeau's run for the leadership of the Liberal Party of Canada back in 2013. He's also the one who is the mastermind behind their whole campaign strategy in 2015, which is a campaign in which the Liberals, of course, won a majority government, surprising just about anyone in the country. Keep in mind, this is a party that was in third place in the House of Commons when the campaign got underway. They finished first big time. He was also, Gerald Butts, the man who had his fingerprints all over everything the Trudeau government did. Every single policy was crafted almost by Mr. Butts himself. So the impact could be huge. Now, I'm sure he's not going to disappear from Mr. Trudeau's world. The two are probably still talking every day over the phone. I'm sure he's going to find a way to advise the Prime Minister in another capacity. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Gerald Butts back in some other role, perhaps, the man in charge of the next campaign, which is going to happen in just over 6 months. So it's probably not the end of it, but of course he's no longer in Ottawa. He's no longer running things. He was really the man behind the Prime Minister. Some people actually joke that he was actually the real Prime Minister of Canada. So his departure could have a huge impact, but he's probably not gone completely.
Ray, recent polls say the SNC-Lavalin controversy has really cost Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at the polls. His popularity is apparently plummeting. Now, will Canadians remember this when the fall election rolls around?
Well, that remains to be seen because the election is quite a few months away still. But yeah, this is cause for worry for the Prime Minister. A Léger poll that was published on Wednesday, commissioned by the Canadian press, shows people who see Justin Trudeau as the best man for the job of Prime Minister has plummeted in recent months, down 7% since the last time Léger asked the same question, polled Canadians on this question back in November. If an election had taken place last week, according to this poll, 34% of people would have voted for the Liberals, 36% would have supported the Conservatives, and 12% the NDP. Léger says it's the first time since they've been conducting polls since the last federal election that they see the Liberals behind, trailing the Conservatives in voting intentions. Mind you, they're trailing the Conservatives by only 2 points, which is within the margin of error of this poll, which is 2.5%. But another survey conducted in recent days by Ipsos for Global News has shown that the Tories are also 2 points ahead of the Liberals. So it looks like the SNC-Lavalin controversy might be hurting the Liberal brand here.
You know, and I'm wondering too, if Maxime Bernier hadn't broken off from the Tories and formed his own party, maybe some of that support would also be with the Tories right now. So maybe add another 4 or 5 points, even a bigger
Possibly,
lead, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah,
now,
absolutely.
Ray, let's chat about another poll which talked about who Canadians thought was the best Prime Minister over the last 50 years.
I thought that this one was quite interesting. Léger, the same company that did the poll I was talking about a second ago, they asked Canadians who they feel has been the best prime minister in the last 50 years. Number one, Stephen Harper. He was the choice of 24% of respondents. Pierre Elliott Trudeau, the current prime minister's father, came in second with 22%. Then Jean Chrétien, then Brian Mulroney. Mr. Trudeau is number 5. He was the choice of only 9% of respondents across the country. Here in Ontario, most people picked Pierre Elliott Trudeau as their favorite prime minister of the past 50 years. And who do you think it was in Alberta? Stephen Harper, 41%. He was picked by 41% of respondents. Justin Trudeau is only viewed by 5% of Albertans as the best prime minister of the last 50 years.
Now, still with politics, the leader of the People's Party of Canada, Maxime Bernier, who we chatted about a few moments ago, he's being sued and he's facing a lawsuit over his party's name. Tell me more about that.
Well, yeah, he's being sued by a businessman from British Columbia over the ownership of the name of his party, the PPC, the People's Party of Canada. The man's name is Satinder Singh Willan, and he says that he filed papers with Elections Canada before Maxime Bernier did last September. So he's basically claiming ownership of the name People's Party of Canada. He says that he's recently asked the Elections Canada to look into it. He's even filed some paperwork asking the Federal Court of Canada to review the matter. So will Maxime Bernier be able to use the PPC as his name, as his party's name? That remains to be seen. So yeah, he's facing a challenge here.
Ray, we chatted about the United We Roll convoy, which rolled through Ottawa recently. Now, what was your sense from the truckers and farmers you chatted with? How upset were they with the federal government, especially when it comes to Bill C-69 and C-68?
Absolutely livid. We were there earlier this week. A colleague of mine went and she did a bit of a vox pop, and she could sense the anger among people protesting on Parliament Hill. They staged a big protest. It completely blocked Wellington Street, which is the main street that runs right in front of Parliament Hill. They blocked it for several hours on over 2 days. They also paraded in the streets of Ottawa. They got a lot of coverage here from local media in the nation's capital. They made a lot of noise on Parliament Hill. Unfortunately for them, I would say, they didn't get a lot of attention from people inside of Parliament. Almost nobody talked about that during question period and during debates, even in the hallways of Parliament. It got very little traction, and that's because they protested during a week in which almost the entire political class was consumed with the SNC-Lavalin Jody Wilson-Raybould controversy.
Monday will be a very big day for federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, since voters in Burnaby South will be headed to the polls. Is there a chance that Singh could maybe not win that seat?
There's always a chance, obviously, but it looks like the stars are aligned right now in his favor because of the whole controversy that this pipeline project, the Trans Mountain Pipeline, is generating in British Columbia, and particularly in Burnaby South. A lot of people in that riding are against that project. You also have the Liberal candidate who had to resign early in that by-election campaign. There's also the SNCLavalin, which is also having an impact on Justin Trudeau's popularity. So if Mr. Singh fails to win when he's got so many things running in his favor in that particular riding, there's no doubt he's going to be kicked to the curb by his party. The NDP will be looking for a new leader. The CBC recently reported that Mr. Singh himself was told as much back in June. He was warned by people, this is not a trial run. If you run for a seat in the House of Commons and you don't win in that by-election, you're out. We're going to be looking for a new leader. So he's got a lot running on that by-election on Monday. It's going to be quite interesting to see what the results are. And this is a riding that the New Democrats won by a narrow margins. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they won that riding in 2015 in the last general election, not by much. So it'll be very interesting to see on Monday night.
Ray, it seems like ever since Jack Layton passed away, the NDP, the orange wave, has kind of died off, you know. Thomas Mulcair, now Jagmeet Singh, I mean, the popularity is almost at an all-time low. What does the NDP party really have to do to turn things around and become more relevant, especially federally?
Well, they need their leader to be in the House of Commons, I think, to be seen on a daily basis on the evening news. They need someone who is good at carrying a message, which has not been one of Mr. Singh's strong suits since he became leader a year and a half ago. He really needs to brush up on his messaging. He needs to be convincing because right now, and the other problem too for the NDP is that you have Mr. Trudeau, who's almost a new Democrat himself. He has shifted his party to the left since he became a Liberal leader a few years ago. And so that's squeezing the NDP out. So they got a fight on their hands. And the other problem also for the NDP is that they're hemorrhaging not just support, but MPs. Two more MPs from Quebec announced just today, Hal, that they're not going to be running in the next election. And that has something to do, obviously, with the polls, which are so low. The popularity of that party is so low right now. Mr. Singh, if he wins the by-election on Monday night, he's going to have to find a way to turn things around and fast because the election, as you know, is fast approaching.
So, Ray, do you think with Trudeau leaning to the left and taking a lot of those NDP supporters away, a lot of those votes, do you think perhaps that maybe Andrew Scheer can grab some of the centrist votes and, of course, people on the right?
We're going to have to see. There's so many possibilities right now. And you also have the Bloc Québécois, which is becoming once again a political force to be reckoned with in the province of Quebec. And that could be a game changer as well. There's so many possibilities. We just don't know where the chips are going to fall for the next election. It could be very interesting. Justin Trudeau has a lot of challengers right now with so many parties that are, sort of competitive. The Bloc is becoming competitive again. And the NDP, the fact that they're so low, they're actually creating problems for Mr. Scheer, the leader of the Conservatives, because the Conservatives, they're counting on a strong NDP to divide the vote on the left. And that's clearly not happening right now with such weak polls for the New Democrats.
Yeah, that's very true. Should be interesting to see what happens this fall. Our parliamentary reporter, Ray Filion, joining me from Ottawa. Thanks again, Ray.
You bet.